My name is Colm Tóibín and I'm a novelist. I think it was an Agatha Christie novel called 450 from Paddington, and it's where someone gets strangled. But I wasn't as interested in the strangling as I was in there's a moment where someone confesses. And just the language of that, I must have been 11 or 12, or I was very young, the language of that really interested me. Yeah, Agatha Christie I think was my first love, really. When I was 12, I began to write poetry. And I wrote poetry probably every day between the ages of 12 and 20. It's for 8 years. And then I stopped. I write in a notebook, A4 size notebook, with a pen, leaving the left-hand side blank and using only the right-hand side. That's because if I need then to rewrite a paragraph, obviously on a keyboard it's very easy because you just put it in, but because you have the left-hand blank, you can always add a paragraph or rewrite a paragraph without having to disrupt the order. When I'm working on a novel, I will work any time, and if best to have a sort of 3-month period, or maybe 2 periods of 6 weeks, where you work very intensely just to get a draft written, just to get it down. In that period, the best thing is to try and start early and to try and finish late. Sometimes it's hard to know because you're walking along the street and something occurs to you for a novel, and a year later you might realise that has the shape of life, but you're not sure when you start that it does. So often you're using tiny details, but a lot of it, of course, is invented, in the sense that with Long Island, my new book, my new novel, these are not based on real people. No one could ever say this was your mother or this was your uncle or this was your brother. It's just not like that. Oh, I have no idea what reality is. I mean, that would be a big step to know what that is. So the question is not to think in any large theoretical term, but to try and just get the next sentence down as accurately as possible. Now, why I do this is too big a question for me. And therefore, the next thing to do is not think why and not even think when, but just think now and write a sentence that is reasonably true. I mean reasonably true in that it seems reasonably true in relation to the previous sentence and the one that comes after. So you're building a world. And that world may have connection to reality. I hope it does. But I wouldn't like to think that it's a too big a question really to think about reality. I think any novelist who starts to talk about reality, their next book is going to be really bad. I decided finally, after writing 10 novels, that my 11th novel, I decided one day, because I got an interesting idea, would have a plot. Meaning a plot being an action that has consequences. And the novel is the consequences of the action. The action doesn't really matter, but the consequences have to be plausible, they have to be interesting, they have to be sometimes unexpected, but they have to be only consequences of the action. Normally with the novel, you just try out, you're making scenes, you're creating characters, you're creating a sort of atmosphere. With this one, it's much closer to if you're shooting arrows, that every part of the book moves the book forward. So you're dealing with story. I've never really done that before. So it's about 3 people. A woman comes home from America to a small Irish town. It's 1976. There's a couple. They're about to get married in their 40s. And suddenly this woman arrives from outside. So it's like a folk tale almost. You know, there was going to be a wedding. And then a woman arrives on the scene. And she is both outsider and insider. And that's the story of the book.